The NFL Top 100 released its list over the last couple weeks, I believe. And the top 10 was debuted. Now, this is voted on by some players in some situations about other players in the NFL. In the locker rooms, I'm not 100% sure if real positions get to vote on this. I really don't know. All I know is the only time I was asked to vote on this was when I made the first Pro Bowl, which was in Arizona instead of Hawaii. Shout out to both of those places. One's a desert, one's a tropical island resort, dream place. Arizona, good people, loved it. But I grew up with the dream of going to the Pro Bowl and going to Hawaii and sitting by a pool with the lei and the whole thing. Instead, it was in Arizona. Okay, no big deal. And I might have had a couple strawberry margs on the flight out to Arizona. Ooh. Okay, I might have had a little bit. And then as soon as I arrived there, I'm feeling pretty good. We just lost by 70 to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. So there was a lot of things going on, but it was really my first taste of offseason, my first Pro Bowl. Here we go. This is going to be fun. I've heard stories about how the Pro Bowl goes. This is going to be a blast. I'm part of the crew now. So I show up. I'm buzzing a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I think it's the second day. I missed the first flight that they scheduled for me because I slept through it because we didn't get home from that game until late. And I was like, all right, there's nothing going on today. I'll go later or whatever. And if they kick me out, hopefully they'll still pay me and I'm still a Pro Bowler. Because it got to the point that week where I was like, I do not want to go to the Pro Bowl right now, especially after that game. Like, that game was just terrible. It was miserable. It had been a long season. And I was just like, I don't even want to go anymore. Missed the thing. I'm going to go. So I go. Have a couple margs, strawberry margs. Here we go. I'm feeling pretty good. I walk in and they're like, all right, here's your schedule of what you have. And it was like immediately, okay, go into the Madden room. You get this, and this. Go into the Nike suite, go into the Under Armour suite, go into this helmet thing, go into this. So it's like an entire regiment. And then boom, at the end, you're going to go into NFL films and you're going to be a part of the NFL Top 100 thing. And I was like, damn, I should not have had those strawberry margaritas at this point. So I walk in there, I'm trying to hold it together or whatever through the whole thing, and they don't really want much of me. And I wasn't a Nike guy or an Under Armour guy, so I actually got packages from both of them, which next level, still use the bags to this day that I got at the Pro Bowl. Very thankful. And shout out to the people that are Nike people and Under Armour people, because of their work, I got a lot of swag from it. So I'm very thankful for them. And also, each time I went into the Nike room, and I tried, maybe next year I become a Nike athlete. They're like, oh, yeah, let's make it happen. And then I walk out, forget that conversation even happened. And I'm like, well, that guy's never going to talk to me again. Then I go into the Under Armour room. I'm like, hey, maybe I'm an Under Armour guy next year. Your cleats kind of stink, but I'll do it if you guys give me some money and some more swag or whatever. Like, oh, let's talk about it. And I walk out, and they completely forget. I'm like, okay. So I have 2 bags now at this point. I just got done, and I've had about, 3-4 margs. So I'm just at my first Pro Bowl. I'm seeing players that I had never met personally before, but I'm like, oh, man, it's awesome to meet you. Luke Kuechly, all these guys. Like, hey, it is so cool to meet you. Martellus Bennett, I got a chance to meet him immediately. Kelsey was there. Chris Carter was there. He was our coach, actually. I mean, there was a lot of interaction. What's that?
Was Taylor Lewan there as well?
Taylor Lewan was not there. I'm a little bit older than Taylor Lewan, so he was not there. Taylor Lewan, good guy, big fan. Great guest, though, for just random football players that could be at the Pro Bowl.
Thought he was.
Before I think they were even in the NFL. But, so I'm rolling into this NFL Top 100 room, and I walk in there, and they have an entire set, and they're like, fill out your top 10 players in the NFL. And I'm like, is this the rankings list? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I've never done this before. I have never done this before. I can't wait to do it. So I go through it, and I start filling it out. I'm like, how am I going to rank the top 10 humans, and why does my opinion matter in this? Okay. And I think that's how a lot of people feel in these lists, right? Until the list comes out, then everybody gets mad. But I think while people are making lists, they're like, how am I supposed to separate between Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees? Am I supposed to take into account the situation as well? Wide receivers, who's making plays, what division they're in, how many, am I supposed to take no, just who's top 10 players? I'm like, well, there's a lot to this. I mean, there is a lot we got to do. So I do my whole list. I forget who 10 to 2 were, but I know number 1 was Adam Vinatieri, because that was the year that Adam Vinatieri, every single time other than once, when he walked on a football field, which the object of the game is to score points. And if you score more points than the other person, if every single time you graced the field an entire season, you scored, I feel like you're potentially the best player of all time. Every single time he was on the field, he scored, except for once. He missed a kick in Tennessee, second to last game or whatever. He was on a perfect streak. Only Gary Anderson had accomplished that. So we were hot. We were all feeling it. Me and Overton, by the way, we're also like, nobody's talking about us, but we can mess this up for sure. But he missed one against Tennessee. It was going into like a 25-mile-an-hour wind. He was set up for failure, but we needed to make the kick. And Vinny wouldn't have said, I don't want to kick that. It was a miss. But he missed once. So every other time he stepped on the field, he scored. That's the object of the game. This guy's the best football player of all time, and that was my entire reasoning for it. He ended up making it into the top 100. I assume that there's points differentials for who gets voted where. And in this top 10 list, this year's top 10 list, shout out to Vinatieri, by the way, making that list. In this top 10 list of this year, a man who just made $500 million is the third highest rated person at his position, okay? So what does that say about the number one overall player, Lamar Jackson, who's coming fresh off an MVP? What that means is other players saw Lamar Jackson's game, and whether they had the same conversation I had with the voting people, like as in, hey, I don't know if this person is better than this person in this situation with this offense. Because you got to remember, the Baltimore Ravens went all in with Lamar Jackson. 3 tight ends. They did this entire thing, and he took advantage of it and dominated until they ran into the Tennessee Titans. He's an MVP. He said just like this last week, I got to get me a Super Bowl. Then he even came out and said, like, hey, Antonio Brown would be perfect for us. This guy's becoming a leader. He's an MVP. He's a stud. And the players voted him at number 1. Russell Wilson at number 2 because they saw exactly what we all saw is he was putting the team on his back dough and winning games out of nowhere. Aaron Donald, the most vicious defensive lineman, a lot of people say, in NFL history, trained with knives that we thought were real for a long time at 3. And then there's the $500 million Super Bowl MVP quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, that every single human says, that's the guy, that's the face probably of the NFL for a long time. But the players are like, let's not forget about this dude up here that is completely changing the game. Patrick Mahomes did a little note writing thing as if, I understand that this is what players thought of me, and we will just do what we did last year again. But I think what the players did was like, well, if Russell Wilson was with Andy Reid, with Tyreek Hill, and with Travis Kelce, and McCole Hardman, and Sammy Watkins, and they had Damian Williams last year, now he's opting out. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is about to have a massive year, and that offensive line, like with Russell, there's probably a lot of that. So I understand the fact that people get upset, but anytime you ask people to rank people in something and you don't take into account the situations or where they're at, it's a fraud list to begin with. But I love people putting that chip on their shoulder, especially a guy that just became an owner of a baseball team because he got paid so much money to be good at a sport. All these dudes are unbelievable. Just know that if you make it on the NFL Top 100 list and your peers are saying you're a damn good player, you are absolutely unbelievable. But this is just like the Madden rating. Anytime you give somebody a rating of 0 to 100, or in this case, 0 to 100, there's always going to be controversy. And I like that people either use it as a chip, or George Kittle was like, thank you so much. This is so nice. And DeAndre Hopkins had to feel damn good that the other players thought that, because Bill O'Brien traded him away for a bag of balls. Derrick Henry just got re-upped over there in Tennessee. He had his biggest year last year. He's going to be prone to go, and I think a lot of defensive players probably voted for him. They're probably like, hey, listen, if you had to tackle this guy, 6'4", 295 pounds, runs a 4.4. No, yeah, that dude is best player in game. I assume people were saying that. It all depends on who's voting, who gets chose to make the list, who doesn't get chose to vote. I mean, these things are awesome for conversation, but if you make that list, which I never did, never would, never have, it's got to feel damn good.